Hey guys, it's been a bit of a break in the SME clinic for the last few days, only a few days, I'm sure that's okay. Our team launched the first Smart Procurement World Conference online this week. It was an experience, it was phenomenal. At the same time, we ran match-up sessions between buyers and SMEs called Supply Match-up with BP, Distel. It's been a busy week, so look out in the YouTube channel. We're hoping to share some of those sessions of how to do business. But for today, we've got a very exciting guest, and that is Werner van Rooyen, who owns How to Tender, and you might have seen them around. They are not new into the market. They've been going since 2006, Werner?
2015.
15, okay, well, probably feels like it was since 2006. And like us, being in a very face-to-face supportive environment, they've gone online very quick. So possibly a bit of an SME story there. As he said, we've been forced into Zooming. But that being said, we can still offer support and help to small business. So when he saw the SME clinic, we invited him to come and join us with some practical advice today. And guys, I think you feel the same as we do. I went to varsity, I studied. I didn't think I was the slowest person in the room, despite the blonde hair. And even us doing, I've had to do a tender. Wow, those questions can get pretty tricky. So I don't think anyone needs to feel uneducated when they're faced by these, because tenders, I don't think, were designed to be the easiest documents to fill. And yet it's our barrier to entry. So Werner, thank you very much. I don't know if you just want to introduce yourself quickly, and then I do have a couple of initial technical questions to kickstart the conversation, because I know these are things that we hear from our audience are obstacles or unclear elements in when they are applying for a tender.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Yes, quick introduction. I've been doing this since 2013, actually. Full-time since 2015, and presented a lot of face-to-face workshops, the old school type of workshops, more than 200 of those during the past 5 years. More than 3,000 people attended, people coming back, because the laws are constantly changing when it comes to tenders, as well as the trends. So it is very important to keep up to date with all of those latest trends and all of the latest laws. As we speak, they are already thinking of changing the laws again. There's going to be a new Procurement Act that is going to replace the Preferential Procurement Policy Framework Act. So all that I can say is thank you very much. That keeps me in business. So, but yes, we've been doing this for quite some time. Tender consulting is another leg that grew out of this that we didn't anticipate, but it's very nice. So we do a lot of tender consulting as well, assisting people or companies then in responding to tenders.
Well, thank you. I think it's as practical support to business as how to manage your finances, because really it talks to market access, which is the place we spend a lot of time in supporting small business. So thank you. Werner, even kind of looking at tenders and elements within there, I was hoping maybe you could spend a bit of time and explain to us the difference in terms of subcontracting and joint ventures in terms of tendering.
Okay, yes. Subcontracting and joint ventures are a bit of a tricky scenario when it comes to tenders, because bidders don't always know which vehicle to use in which situation. And there's a very thin line between joint ventures and subcontracting. And to understand this a bit more or clearer, one needs to look at the definitions between what is a joint venture and what is subcontracting. So for a joint venture, the definition is where two or more bidders, they join forces in order to execute a contract, right? So it's usually just for one contract. It's not more than one contract. You want the moment you get a partner in to doing a business on a continual basis, then it becomes a company or a partnership. But for a joint venture, It's just for one contract. It's very important to understand that. Also, when it comes to joint ventures, profits are shared. So there will be a joint venture agreement where both parties or three parties, I don't recommend more than 3 joint venture partners in a joint venture, but in any case, they share profits after the contract has been executed. And then one of the biggest disadvantages of a joint venture is where all the parties to the joint venture or all the partners to the joint venture are liable for non-performance. So that is a bit of a risk what you take when you go into a joint venture. Whereas when it comes to subcontracting, the contractor, the main contractor, they or he or she, they appoint a subcontractor to execute just a portion of a contract that they cannot execute. Okay, so that must be clearly understood. Okay, and then the main contractor is liable for performance, not the subcontractor. The subcontractor, obviously, if they're not going to perform, the main contractor is going to fire them. But at the end of the day, the main contractor has to report back to the employer. Okay, so that is, and the main contractor gets paid. There's no profit share. The main contractor gets paid, and then they pay the subcontractor for their portion of the work. So that is the main differences. A joint venture, you are in a partnership. Both partners have got the same equal amount of say in the partnership and in executing the contract, whereas with subcontracting, it's not the case. There's a main contractor, and then there is a excuse me. There is a main contractor, and then the subcontractor. Then, when it also comes to joint ventures, we always recommend that you must choose very carefully when it comes to joint venture partners.
Imagine, yes.
Yeah, because you don't want to get a lazy partner in there or somebody who just is in it for the money. You want somebody who wants to work together with you. So it's very important to understand that. There are 2 types of joint ventures that can be formed. First of all, you get what we call a horizontal joint venture. So this is where companies of similar size, doesn't matter if large, big, small, medium, companies of a similar size, they join forces in order to fight the other companies, to give them more advantage, things like building capacity, doing business on better terms, bulk buying, all of those benefits through on a horizontal
advantage, yeah.
Yes, so whereas with a vertical joint venture, which is very popular in South Africa when it comes to responding to tenders, that is where you get a large concern, which will then go into a joint venture with a small SMME, more like small business, micro enterprises, where they then use that small SMMEs, sorry. They use the SMME's ownership to their advantage, but then in turn, they then provide the SMME with much needed capital and resources, training, all those enterprise social supplier development initiatives. That is what they use. Okay, and therefore there is this vertical line then when it comes to joint ventures in the tender environment. Also, that one must remember that when it comes to joint ventures and subcontracting, both of them can be part of a tender. Right? So you can have a joint venture partnership that executes the contract, but there's still a portion of that contract that they can execute, and then they need a subcontracting partner. The reason for that, what happens is that the procuring authorities, and it doesn't matter if it is public procurers or private entities, they sometimes mix and match. You will find that I'm assisting a company with a cleaning tender, but part of the cleaning tender is also grass cutting or then garden services, as well as fumigation, pest control. Okay, now 99% of cleaning companies do not do pest control. But for the tender purposes, you need to have a fumigation certificate. So what happened now is my client, first of all, he went into a joint venture partnership so that they can strengthen their application with years of experience as well as references. But then they still short the fumigation certificate. So subcontract a portion of that contract to the pest control company. So that is the differences basically between subcontracting and joint ventures. I hope that makes sense.
No, it does, absolutely. And now I understand that there's also percentages, so 30% or 25% subcontracting. Can you expand a little bit on that for clarity?
Surely. When it comes to subcontracting in government tenders in South Africa, the government has put down 2 regulations in the preferential procurement regulations of 2017, whereby they said in Regulation 4 and as well as in Regulation 9 that a certain percentage of a contract must be subcontracted. All right, so it's usually 30%. We call it the 30% rules. And the problem with these 2 regulations is the fact that there are 2 regulations. And that confuses bidders because they're not sure which regulation is applicable. And the same goes for the officials that put out these tenders. They also are not 100% sure of which regulation they must apply in which case. Right? So when I do my training sessions, we always have a little questionnaire in the beginning. We call it a quick question section where we just give people 10 questions quickly to answer in order to gain their knowledge. And one of the questions in that 10 questions is that when must a organ of state subcontract 30%? And one of the choices is always, and that is incorrect. And that is the myth out there is that all tenders in South Africa, 30% must be subcontracted to designated groups. It's not true. All right.
Okay.
Yes, I think that you also learned something.
I did. You can see my eyes.
So yes, that is the problem. You know, there's this misconception is that 30% of all contracts must be subcontracted to these designated groups, and these designated groups think that they can simply get 30% of the value of a contract for doing nothing. Because and that's not true as well. If you subcontract, you've also got expenses. You're also going to just to make a small margin, profit margin. You're not going to get 9 million rand or 30 million rand, and there you go, and happy go lucky. That's not how it works, you know. So there's all these misconceptions. But let me just quickly talk about Regulation 4 and Regulation 9, the 2 regulations, and I'm going to highlight the similarities and the differences between these 2 regulations. Now, again, Regulation 4 is the first one, and the Regulation 4 of the Preferential Procurement Regulations 2017 states that if an organ of state wants to advance designated groups, then they must advertise it in the tender as such. And there are 3 rules that they can apply, or pre-qualification criteria. They like to use it as a pre-qualification criteria, where they will say that only bidders with a certain BEE score or level can respond. Usually they will say only bidders with a level 1 or 2 BEE level may respond to this tender. Okay, so that is the first rule that they can apply. Or they can say that only exempt micro enterprises or qualifying small enterprises, when it comes to your BE levels, only they can respond to this tender. So then they exclude the large companies, or they can say that 30%, the bidders, the successful bidder, must subcontract 30% to EMEs or QSEs, which are 51% owned by these designated groups, which are then black people, black youth, black women. People with disabilities. There's about 6 or 7 of them. I'm not going to go through all of them now. All right. So, and the aim is to spread the wealth. That's we must understand.
Absolutely. Yeah.
yes, government aim is to spread the wealth, and you can think for yourself, if 30% of a contract has been subcontracted, then somebody is going to make money down the line if they perform properly. All right. So both of well, these regulations more or less covers this. The problem is that the first regulation 4 does not include any value. So you can they can apply this regulation to a tender worth 500,000 rand, which is not really the spirit of the regulation. It is actually for large contracts. Right? So and for that reason, there's the other one, and the Regulation 9 even confuses people more, because in the Regulation 9, that says that if it is feasible to subcontract for contracts above 30 million rand, then organs of state must apply this. So this is where it comes in with the must and always, right? But there are two distinctive things that must happen first. They must first of all determine what the value of this contract is going to be. Is it going to be more than 30 million or less than 30 million? Because if it is more than 30 million, then they must decide, is it feasible?
Yes.
Because sometimes it might not be feasible, especially if you are borderline 30 million, 31 million, 32 million. You can easily buy one machine worth more than that. One of these large
and it might be that it is only one machine and it is only available from one supply, but maybe the maintenance portion of it could be locally.
Yeah, but you will find that, you know, even then, if you don't do it at the manufacturer, you won't have a maintenance agreement. So that is problematic. Yes. But that is where the problem comes in, is that organs of state, they don't understand this, and the bidders also don't understand this. So there must be a feasibility study, there must be a calculation of the price of the tender before they can apply Regulation 9. So Regulation 9 is only applicable for tenders above 30 million rand. And once it is feasible, then they must subcontract. Then it must be a clause in the tender. The other problem with Regulation 9 is that you cannot choose your own subcontractor. Okay? You must choose from a list that will be provided by you by that organ of state. So that ties your hands behind your back, because you cannot choose your own competent subcontract that you know well or have supplied or used it previously. You must choose one from a list that they are going to provide you, which also is a major obstacle in the tender environment, because who do you choose, and how do you know that these subcontractors that you have identified will be able to execute the contract? So that is a bit of a problem when it comes to Regulation 9, is the fact that it's above 30 million, so it's already a very large contract. Now, they force you to subcontract, but you are not allowed to choose your own subcontractors. You must choose that they appoint to you. You know, so it's a bit dodgy.
Werner, at this point, I know we've kind of run out of time, and I think you've absolutely highlighted why people need to attend your course, read the book, and get in touch with you. And I'm just thinking about all these intricacies that you are posing, and to be honest, we haven't been involved in huge tenders. So in my experience, those often I see a lot having to apply for tenders or complete tenders in a very rushed environment as well. So you're now stating these things that can make or break a business, and yet you have to make these decisions within less than a 2-week period, because the tender was released with a very, very soon close-in date. So sure, I can imagine it's very tricky for small business, and you're trying to do this at the same time as actually just delivering on your current projects.
Yes, no, that's true.
I'm sure you've seen lots, but having an organization like yourself and how to tender to navigate these pitfalls very quickly, or to capacitate businesses at this time, so that when those tenders come up, they know which way they want to approach the tender, which is the best way for their business and for that tender. I think it's highly valuable, and I think you've really put a spotlight on the fact that if they don't get this right, this is why they're not successfully winning tenders, or if they win the tender, are kind of falling into some major pitfalls.
Yes. You know, in my experience, you know, I get people into our training sessions which are highly experienced in tenders, but not highly successful.
Yeah.
So there's a difference in being experienced, and then eventually they will say, "Oh, there's the light bulb moment.
Yeah.
That I've been doing wrong the whole time."
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, listen, I'm so glad that you joined us today. Guys, Werner's and How to Tender's details are down in the bottom. I think this 12 minutes or so, I think it's a bit more than that actually, that we've covered, hopefully switched some light bulb on. But if that's all we got in this short interview, I'm sure a program with them is highly, highly valuable. And if there's anything you do, you need to contact Werner before you do your next tender. Werner, thank you so much. We're very passionate about stopping the obstacles for small business, and you hit the nail on the head. You might be experienced in tenders, but not successful, and I think you kind of know some of those reasons as to why. So thank you. I don't know if you want to give a last passing shot.
No, just thank you, Debbie, for having me and giving me the opportunity. And yes, please, people, educate yourself, because if you want to grow your business, you will have to do business with organs of state. And the tenders are going to be very, very important going forward.
Absolutely. And the tenders are coming out rather fast. I mean, in conversations, I was talking about an online conference. I think a lot of the procurement at the moment is happening non-strategically. It's very rushed. I mean, COVID hit us with a bang. And the knock-on effects of the kind of products and services that organs of state need, as well as private sector. So in order to protect your business, there's a great opportunity there now, but don't get caught up in entering that tender wrong. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Stay safe, stay healthy, guys. Until the next SME clinic, watch our YouTube